recording. So, hi everyone, it's Emma again from the Marketing Success Summit, and delighted again with another fantastic speaker. Today we have Julie Hagan Lowe in the house. So welcome, Julie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
It's a great thrill to have you here. Again, obviously I'm in the online world, and I've seen your growth in terms of what you've done over the last couple of years, and it's really fantastic to see how much you've done since you've launched yourself as an entrepreneur. I think it's about 2.5 years ago now, is it?
Yeah, it is. I just celebrated 2 years full-time in my business. I was doing it on my own for about a year before that. So about 3 years in the business, but 2 years full-time at Socially Aligned since I walked away from my 9 to 5.
I'm just wondering, because I know a lot of people listening will be looking at transitioning or just about to transition, or indeed have just transitioned kind of from a corporate or that type of role. And I'm just wondering, have you any tips for people in terms of when to make that leap, or kind of anything that you've learned in that transition?
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody depending on your comfort level of doing that kind of a thing. For me, I've always said I'm a little bit of an accidental entrepreneur. Like, I think some people kind of grow up with an entrepreneurial mindset and they know that's what they want to do. For me, I kind of like tripped into it more than anything. I was working in a corporate career, had been for over a decade. And if you had have asked me like 5 years ago, would I ever be full-time in a business and be an entrepreneur, I'd be like, oh, not me. Like, I don't have, a head for that or whatever. Like, I don't have a, business number head or whatever. But it really came about because I was working in a corporate job. I was the head of digital marketing for an e-commerce company. And I could see from what I was doing there, the impact it had. I was helping that company, make multi-million-dollar revenue off of social media marketing and Facebook advertising. So I knew the power of it. And I just always kind of thought I had to have a corporate type career. And I couldn't really envision myself as an entrepreneur in the beginning. And then what happened was I actually went to a conference for my job, a social media marketing conference, and I fell in love with entrepreneurs. I was just surrounded at this conference by entrepreneurs, and I just fell in love with the idea of entrepreneurship, and specifically with helping entrepreneurs. And there were so many people at this conference that they were there because they were not a marketing person, they were an entrepreneur, they were a business person, and they were really struggling. And I thought, oh, if you just knew what all was possible, if you could just get this marketing bit down, the sky is the limit. And I thought, okay, I can't just help this one guy, this one company anymore. I really want to help more people. And I became very passionate about that. And so I started doing Socially Aligned on the side. So had a 9 to 5, 2 small children. So I was doing it like nights and weekends, basically. But as I got into it, I started loving it more and more, and eventually got to the point where I was like, okay, this is what I'm really passionate about, and started trying to figure out, like, okay, is this something I could do all the time? So I did it on the side for about a year before I got up the nerve. Number one, got up the nerve to quit, and number two, kind of felt confident that, like, okay, I'm not making as much money as I want in my business right now, but there's sort of like proof of concept that there's a need, there's a desire for the work, and I'm enjoying the work. I could tell there was a market for it, and I thought, okay, if I can put more time and energy into it instead of just nights and weekends, I can make this work. So once I kind of got the nerve up and had proof that it seemed to be working, then I was like, well, more than anything, I thought, what, if I don't do this, I think I'm probably going to regret not taking the chance. So finally took the leap, quit my job, and I just had my 2-year anniversary of doing this full time. And in some ways I think, oh, I should have done it sooner because it's worked out so well and it's grown so quickly over the past 2 years. But I really think I had to have the mindset right to do it. And so it took as long as it took, right? I think everybody's timeline is a little different.
Yeah, sure. Well, congratulations on 2 years full time. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering as well, because you spoke there, about corporate, and, obviously from your background, you could see the huge opportunities for anybody in business, be it corporate or small to medium business owners, in terms of, as you say, a lot of entrepreneurs, they have the ideas, they have the innovation, they're very good at doing something, whatever it might be, but it's kind of a case of driving leads, driving traffic towards them and that's kind of where they're I suppose falling down, if you will. So I suppose that's the gap in the knowledge. And I suppose, but I'm just wondering, there'll be a lot of people listening in and they've tried Facebook ads, and sometimes when I say to people I've tried it, they're like, oh, I boosted a post, and they've done a couple, and to them it hasn't really worked, and they hear so much about it. They're like, they know they need to be doing it, and can you just explain to people just when somebody is in that situation where they're looking to bring leads in, and just explain to them why it's so important to start focusing on digital, but more specifically Facebook ads?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, and I see that problem too. And I think the issue is what a lot of people don't realize is there's a lot of ways to bring in business, and in different stages of your business, different things are appropriate. So if you're brand new to business and you're kind of in that like blue sky phase of like, I don't know exactly what I want to do, I don't know exactly who I want to help or what with or whatever, you're still trying to figure it out. You don't need Facebook advertising yet. You need to be having a lot of one-to-one conversations. You need to be working with people and figuring things out. Facebook ads are better when you want to bring in more leads and get in front of more people and get in front of people that you're, not naturally just going to be able to connect with, hanging out in Facebook groups and that sort of thing. The other thing is I see this problem where people get really passive about bringing in leads, and this happens a lot when you get rolling and you're getting a lot of referral work. And I know I've been guilty of this too. I get a ton of referral work, and so it's really easy to kind of be like, oh, well, the leads are coming in, and just not be out there doing anything to market yourself. But the problem is you're really reliant on other people sending you referrals. You're reliant on networking and doing things that you don't really have a lot of control over the outcome. And the thing that I love about Facebook advertising is you're really taking control of your business, and you're really taking control of like how many people do find you every month, how many people sign up for your list, how many people book calls. Obviously, there's some variation. You can't control everything 100%, but it, to me, is a way to really kind of take control of your business destiny and say like, okay, my goal is I want to have this many calls per month, or I want to have this size of an audience so that if I have a summit or if I have a challenge or if I have whatever, I have this ready-made audience that I can market to. And the thing is, you have to have a strategy behind it though, because I do see a lot of people that they're like, oh, I should advertise. Everybody's talking about it. I've heard so many people have had great success with it, so they know they should do it. So then they hit boost post, and then that usually doesn't do much for them. Or they get into Ads Manager or Power Editor, and they get either number one, totally overwhelmed, and they just don't even get the ad up and running because it's too much. They don't know what to do. Or they get something up and running, but it's just sort of random. They're just kind of throwing things out there, and there's no plan of like, okay, what do I want to happen with this ad? Like, who do I really want to get in front of? What's the objective? Are you trying to grow your list? Are you trying to get awareness around something? What are you trying to promote? And then once you get those leads, what are you going to do with them? Because I've gotten more and more with helping people with their funnels, because I was getting so many people coming to me for help with their ads, and they were just throwing out random guides and things, and then they weren't doing anything with that traffic. So they were building their list, and in some cases they had thousands and thousands of people on their list, but then the list was just kind of sitting there. And they're like, well, I want to build my list, but I'll deal with them later. But the thing is, like, after a couple of months, about 60% of those leads are inactive. They're kind of dead. They're not really paying attention anymore. If you just let them sit there, if you're not engaging with them, if you didn't have some sort of real plan with that traffic. So I think people are taking either they're taking a ton of action, they're doing a lot of things, they're blogging and they're doing Facebook Live and they're on Periscope and whatever, they're networking in groups, but it has no real plan, and it's keeping them really busy, but the results are sort of hit or miss. So they have these fantastic months and then they have terrible months, and it's like this roller coaster, and at the beginning of every month they don't know what to expect. Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of that, or like I said, people passively kind of sitting back and getting a little bit complacent about the fact that leads are coming in without them having to do anything. And then the problem is a lot of times that dries up. So what I'm really passionate about is making sure that people have a plan and a purpose to what they're doing, and they're not just throwing things out there randomly. I think we could actually be working less in our businesses if we had a better plan and a system in place. And I think it's different for everybody. I don't think there's like a one size fits all plan, but some sort of plan and purpose to what you're doing, to your marketing activity. You could actually, I think, be working less, but get better results.
Yeah, for sure. All of that is music to my ears, I have to tell you. You know, I think it's great because I think sometimes people need to hear it a couple of times, or they need to hear somebody that's doing Facebook ads all the time, because it's typically not people's area of expertise. And like you're saying, they know they need to be doing it, and it's kind of slapdash sometimes with the piece of jump in, as you say, boost a post or quickly do an ad, but there's no objective, there's no strategy. And as Julie says, it's part of an overall sales funnel. And in other words, like, it's a sales plan. Sometimes people, I think, get kind of worried. What's a funnel? It sounds like you're kind of diving off down a pipe somewhere, and so but it's just really a plan, isn't it? It's just kind of figuring out, okay, well, what's the end objective, and how do I get there, and what do I need to, the steps I need to be taking in order to, you know, as you say, is it you're building brand awareness, you're wanting to make sales, you're wanting people to book a call, like obviously Black Friday, for example, is on next week, and Cyber Monday, you've got Business Saturday coming up, and Christmas is around the corner. So for e-commerce business, it's like the busiest time of year.
Totally.
And I suppose I'm just wondering, we'll say, if somebody has a product, just supposing, right, and they have done nothing, we'll just take it that they've done nothing, and it's Cyber Friday or Black Friday next week, this day next week. And I'm just wondering, we'll say, you know, in that case, or even where they have more time to market, like, what's the steps they should take ideally? Now, I know it's how long is a piece of string, and every business is slightly different, but typically speaking, kind of, is there an overarching strategy of how to approach Facebook ads?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it depends on what you're promoting and everything, but I do think, number one, it helps if you sort of reverse engineer your numbers. So I talk a lot about this with my one-on-one clients, that sometimes they're like, well, I want to do a webinar to sell a product or program, or I want to do a webinar to get consultations. But sometimes people don't know any of their numbers. They're like, well, you know, how many sales do you want to have? How many clients do you want to have? Oh, I don't know, you know, or maybe they have a number in mind, but they are not working backwards to figure out, well, what kind of investment am I going to have to make in this to make it work? And how much time do I need? So sometimes people throw things together last minute, so they don't give it enough time. And so they're just promoting really hard for a few days. They don't have any time to nurture a lead or to retarget them, you know, get in front of people again or anything. Taking the webinar, for example, you really need to market, you know, 5 to 10 days out. And then you need to think about, like, okay, how many people do I need to get in front of to get enough people to sign up for the webinar? Not everybody's going to show up, you know, so like, let's say 50% of the people that signed up show up to the webinar. And then what is a typical close rate, right? So you actually have to get in front of more people than you might think. And I think that's one thing I see a lot, where people are like, oh, well, I'll just spend, you know, $200, and they think they're going to be able to get, you know, 100 sales. They're going to get, you know, 1,000 people on a webinar, and they're going to get a ton of sales, but you don't close that many people off of a webinar, right? It's actually a really small percentage. So sometimes I see people really under budget, or they throw things together at the last minute. They have no follow-up because, you know, they're the saying, the money is in the follow-up. It's a saying for a reason, because you really can't just throw something out there, talk to people one time about something, and expect everybody to be buying. You have to have some follow-up. Something I see, you know, you mentioned physical goods. That is one thing that sometimes you can go directly out to cold traffic, people that don't know you, and sell, because we're a little bit more used to shopping for physical goods online. So it can work, but I also usually see better success when people have a plan to get in front of people multiple times, because a lot of times we come across something on our phone, we're at a restaurant waiting for our food, or maybe they're at a stoplight, or who knows, you know, so somebody might see something, be interested, but not have time to buy right that second.
Mm-hmm.
So especially for physical goods, usually what works best is to get in front of them again.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to set up a little bit of tracking on your site. We call this retargeting ads. Anybody that's ever been on Amazon shopping, I'm sure has seen a retargeting ad because they do this all the time. You go, you look at a jacket or a pair of boots or something on Amazon, you go back over to Facebook, and then over in the right column, you're like, oh, that's the jacket I was just looking at. And they do that because it works. Like, people need to see things more than once, you know, and when they see your ad the first time, it may not be convenient to buy. So like having a plan to get in front of people, have multiple touch points, and a plan in place to actually convert that traffic, those views into sales, rather than, oh, I'm going to throw up a Black Friday ad, you know, for 5 days and we'll see what happens. You know, It's probably not going to pan out.
Yeah. There's some great tips. Thank you. I like the idea of the reverse engineering. So looking at the end goal in mind, obviously, and then working back, as you say, in terms of the time you have available, in terms of the skill set that you have, you know, in terms of making graphics and all that sort of thing. Plus the budget. What is the budget? You know, and what are you trying to achieve? And I think as well, just to reiterate kind of what Julie was saying there in terms of the numbers, it's completely, all sales is a number game. That's why they have the funnels that go like that. It's like,
yeah.
You could, you know, it's very misleading sometimes, because you could say, well, my ad has been seen like 10,000 times, and you know, in your head, you could be clocking up all these sales, and it doesn't quite work like that, unfortunately. So,
Yeah, for most things, depending on, you know, is it a webinar? Is it a sales call? Like, how are you talking to people? How are you selling to them? The percentages vary, but for a lot of things, it's like 1% of sales. So for webinars and email funnels and things like that, you're looking at maybe 3% of sales, maybe if it's lower price, maybe like a 9% conversion rate through a funnel, but we're talking about really low percentages. Now, if you get people on the phone, you might be looking at like 20-25% close rate. Some people much higher, just depends on your skill set and everything else, but it's a percentage. It's a fraction of the people that you're getting in front of. And I think sometimes people have these really out of proportion expectations where they're like, oh, if I get 100 people on the webinar, you know, like half of them, you know, I can close half of them. No, I don't care how good you are, like, you're not going to close half the people on the webinar. It's just not going to happen. So sometimes it's just kind of unrealistic expectations. It's part of the problem, is not knowing what real averages there are to these sort of things.
Yeah. And if I could just reiterate just what Julie is saying, because I think it's important to pick up on that point, because a 1%, between 1 and 3% conversion on average. So like, if you look at figures there, so if you have 200 people signed up to your webinar, then if 100 show up, that's 1 to 3 people that buy. Mm-hmm. So if you've got like a $20 product, just supposing, that's like $60, assuming that you even go on the higher end of the scale. So it like, the numbers really filter down.
Yeah. And certain things, you know, like, I wouldn't do a webinar for a $20 product. You can sell that via email. Like, think about like what is going to make the most sense for whatever you're doing. A webinar is going to make sense if you're selling something a little more high ticket, at least like $500 or something like that. Because by the time you pay for the traffic, I mean, the cost of a lead for a webinar right now, it has gone up some, and I see anywhere from $2 to $10 to get somebody on a webinar. And that's fine if you get enough people to actually show up to the webinar, and then you're selling something high price enough that you're covering your advertising costs and you're still making enough money on whatever it is that you're selling. So somebody that's doing a webinar, getting consultations, getting phone calls with people for $50, $100, something like that, they can afford to do that if they're selling like a $3,000 program. But if they're selling like a $600 program, even, there may not, you know, they may have just blown too much of the return on that investment for it to make sense anymore. So really knowing how much does it cost to get a sale or to get somebody on the phone and ultimately close them is really important. Or you could very easily put a ton of time, money, and effort into something and then realize, oh my God, I just spent so much money on my ads, I'm not making hardly anything anymore. Unfortunately, that happens a lot when people don't realize. They're just like, oh, well, everybody's doing webinars. They work. I'll just do that.
Yeah.
And they don't take into consideration all these variables.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. I'm just wondering, Julie, can you tell us a little bit more when people just kind of go more into the kind of technical side of it? So when they've kind of, I suppose, mapped out a plan and reverse engineered and worked that out, and so then they're kind of getting into the nitty gritty of kind of going in and using the tech, which is often the scary part. But just in terms of Power Editor and Business Manager, like, what do you feel are the differences, and is there any benefits to either or could you use either?
Right. So Business Manager, they seem to be pushing more and more people into that. Really, Business Manager, I don't use it personally, but my understanding is it's basically just a portal to get into everything. And then once you're in there, it basically all looks the same. And you're going to use Ads Manager or Power Editor to run your ads. But when it comes to Ads Manager versus Power Editor, Ads Manager has come a long way over the past couple of years. So I used to be like, just don't even mess with it, because you were so limited on how much text you could type into the ad, and some really ridiculous kind of limitations that just didn't exist in Power Editor. They're about on par right now. I still feel like it's much easier to do testing in Power Editor, because you can replicate your work and make variations and test different copy, test different audiences, I think, easier in Power Editor versus Ads Manager. But that being said, it has come a long way. They removed a lot of the limitations that are there. So if you're not doing a ton of testing, especially, or if you just want to test your photos, go ahead and use Ads Manager if that's easier for you. But it's so funny, the most recent versions of Power Editor that are rolling out, the interface looks almost exactly the same. So when it pops up, like after you get in there, it's like, well, this looks like the Ads Manager. Like, it looks almost exactly the same. So I think they're about on par now. Power Editor is still probably my favorite.
Okay, yeah, because I learned on Power Editor,
yeah,
and I found it and still find it confusing going into Business Manager. I think it's kind of what you start learning as well.
yeah, that's true. But yeah, and they change it all the time. So like I said, the most recent changes to Power Editor, if you've been in Ads Manager, you've been in Power Editor both recently, it's like kind of crazy. They're making them match up more and more. I kind of wonder at some point one of them will go away. Yeah. And we'll all just have one thing to use, because it's never made complete sense why there was
true,
in the first place. Like,
what is this?
Perfect one of them, right? Just make one of them really good, and we'll use that. But
you can just see in Facebook all these developers going, mine's better, type of thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Trying things out and all the rest of it, which is good for us long term.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering as well, in terms of then kind of, I suppose, doing an ad, and have you any tips for people in terms of the amount of text? Again, I know it's how long is a piece of string, but what's the main things that grab people? Like, do you think video is more current? Like, you've got slideshows, or you've got the carousels, you've got some really cool, like, some people are really good at graphics. I have to say, personally, I'm not that good. I have to get other people to do that, because I put something and it just does not look like some people do. Because I have Michelle Rohr on the summit as well, and she was just doing some graphics the other day on PicMonkey, and I mean, she's just amazing. She just has that eye. But I'm just like, to you, what pops off the page? What sells, do you feel, to people?
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's one of those things where you really need to test, because sometimes what we think is going to work isn't what works the best. But generally speaking, video is good for really cheap reach and to grow engagement with people. But for most people, the great majority of my clients, video doesn't convert really well when it comes to driving traffic, sending people to your website or to a landing page. It doesn't always work really well in, getting them there and getting them to sign up for something. It does for some people. I'm not going to say it doesn't, because it does for some people. But I feel like the great majority of my clients that have tested out video, it gets them really good, cheap exposure, like penny views. If you can't get a view for 1 to 3 cents on video, something's wrong, because I pretty much always see people in that range. So you can get really cheap views. One thing to remember with video is, most of us don't turn sound on. Like, only like 12% of people turn sound on any given video. Facebook has actually done, has data around this. So what you need to do is, number one, put captions on your video, and just know some people are not going to turn the video on. No, even if you're like turn on the sound. Like you see people doing like all this crazy stuff and putting things up on the video. Sometimes that may work. A lot of times people just don't. I know I don't a lot of times. But if you put captions on it, and Facebook has made this really easy for us, you can actually do the captions. They do it for you inside of Power Editor, and then you can edit them because they always get it wrong, especially if you have any sort of accent or anything else. They're gonna get some of the words wrong. But you can clean it up. That way, even if somebody doesn't turn on the sound, they still know what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And I always encourage people to make sure that you put text above the video so that if I don't turn it on, I still know what it's about. I still have a link to click, that sort of a thing. But if you're going after branding, exposure, that kind of thing, give video a try for sure. But if you're more concerned with driving traffic, sending people to a page or your website, especially if you're trying to get them to sign up for something, just stick with a single image. Carousel ads can work well. Those are the ones where it's like 5 images and you can kind of flip through them in a procession there. Those, I really feel like we're developed more for like product-based businesses. So let's say you sell jewelry, you know, it might be a bracelet and then a necklace and then a ring, and you can kind of go flip through those, click on one thing and go to that exact item. I have seen some really cool like testimonials. So I've seen some business coaches, for example, put photos of clients and really super short, because it's not a lot of text, little testimonials. Or think of it sort of like storyboarding. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of tell a story. So carousel ads can work the best. Most of the time, I recommend, though, just a single image. As far as what works well, though, I've seen everything from, you know, if you're an entrepreneur, a photo of you, if you're the face of your business. Honestly, a lot of times some like kind of random images work really well for people. You know, if you're all familiar with Ruffino, I can't talk. He has these really random, he'll have like cat photos and like, you know, just random images of scenery. It actually works really well because it feels a little bit like something we're used to seeing in our newsfeed, and it doesn't necessarily have to tie in to what the ad is about. It gets people's attention. So even if people comment and say, what does a cat have to do, you know, your coaching, it doesn't matter. It got their attention. They're talking about it, right? So test some things out. Test photos of yourself. Test random things. Test stock photos of, you know, pretty offices, whatever, and just see what works the best. I do usually recommend that you either don't put any text on the photo, though, or very little, because Facebook has removed the rule. We used to have like a whole grid system that you had to, you know, it's 20% of the text and it had a fitness, you know, we'd have these weird arrangements of text. They got rid of that, thank goodness, because that was a mess. But if you put too much text on the photo, they will actually tell you, hey, just a heads up, we're not really going to show your ad very much because it has too much text on it. It's just like crazy. So it defeats the purpose of the ad. They're actually telling you they're not really going to show it to a lot of people. So if you really want to put text on it, just limit yourself, like keep it really small. For the most part, you don't really even need text on it. I think the number one thing that makes for an effective ad, though, is the copy. So if you're going to spend time on anything, spend it on making sure that you have really rock solid copy. You know, if you're just a terrible writer, it would be worth paying somebody for. But I think most people, if they put some time in it, can actually produce, you know, good copy. But I think the problem is a lot of times we have so much other stuff going on that we just kind of slap it together. Mm-hmm. But especially the headline. I think the picture in the headline is what stops people in their tracks. So, you know, you really need to take the time to work on your headline and make it super clear who you're helping and what you're helping them with, and make sure that it's specific and measurable if at all possible. So don't just say, I help entrepreneurs grow their business. Mm-hmm. It's like the most vague thing in the world, but you see that all the time, or like, I'm going to help you lose weight, or I'm going to help you have more energy. It's just so general. Mm-hmm. Rather than saying, I'm going to help you grow your business, what about, you know, the 5-step game plan to add, you know, my clients use to add 10K a month to their business without working more hours in a week. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's very specific and measurable. It's okay, how much money? Well, let's a additional 10K a month. So I know how much. And it also gets into something I want to avoid or a pain point. Okay, well, that sounds like maybe it's going to be a lot of work. Like I know I'm already working a lot. That sounds like a lot. But if you're saying like without adding hours to your week, it's like, oh, well, number one, that's intriguing. Well, how are you going to help me do that without working more? And number two, you've overcome an objection. So really specific and measurable headlines to hook people in. And then your copy above the photo, really get into touching on some of the things that people are struggling with and get into what are the outcomes that you're trying to help them achieve. So I don't care if it's a free guide or a webinar or whatever. People want to know how you're going to help them and what they're going to walk away knowing. And get as specific as possible and really touch on like, this is where you're at right now, sort of the heaven and hell. This is where the hell you're in right now, what you're struggling with, but this is what life could look like. And get as specific into those outcomes as possible and the things that really people care about, because sometimes it's really general of like, you're going to have your dreams come true or whatever. Well, what does that mean? I don't know what that looks like. It's just not specific enough. So get as specific as possible into the outcomes and you're going to have way better success. I really more and more am finding that the success of ads and landing pages come down more to people taking the time to really paint that picture and get into outcomes as much as anything. And the really general kind of bland copy is what falls flat and just gets ignored because there's so much stuff up there.
Sure. When you say copy though, I'm just wondering, so say for example, somebody is, going through their outcomes and results for people and, they're doing a good job in the copy, but I'm just wondering how long should that, or how long would you recommend that copy to be? Because you see some people's and it's quite lengthy. And then more people are obviously quite short, but sometimes it's obviously difficult to get them across in a shorter space of time. So I'm just wondering, ideally, like, is long form better because you're getting that across? Or, again, you probably need to test this, but what's your thoughts?
Yeah, and I totally would test it. And I've seen both super short copy and longer copy work well. If it's longer, it better be really well done, or people are people are skimmers, so you're going to lose them if it's not really compelling. But I've seen really long copy and I've seen super duper short, like one sentence copy work really well. What happens sometimes though with the super short copy is people write something really intriguing and it's more of a headline and people click and then they don't sign up. So if you're trying to get people to go to a page and actually sign up for something, and you had this, they call it clickbait, like something really intriguing, really compelling that you just can't help but click on it and find out what it's about. But then you get there and you're like, oh, I didn't realize you were trying to get me to sign up for a webinar or download something. I thought it was a blog post. And then they're surprised that they landed on a lead capture form. Or it was really compelling and then they get there and then there's a little more detail and they're like, oh, that's not really what I'm interested in. It's like sometimes they click without not having enough information. So you've paid for that click, you've sent the traffic there, but then it doesn't always convert really well. Sometimes it does though. So you just test it out, but especially for something like a webinar or a challenge or a summit, something bigger that you're asking more people, it's a bigger commitment of time or energy. Give them more information up front because you're kind of like qualifying that traffic before they ever get there. And that's more important than getting that click if it doesn't turn into anything.
Sure. And just on that as well, because obviously, the summit, but indeed for a lot of coaches, I see, people putting up posts and whatnot. But do you think people need to personalize it? So like, for example, during the summit, is it better to have just a graphic, just with the dates on and kind of do more copy? Or are people more drawn typically to see where they see lots of speakers? Or, is it a case of you just kind of showcase one speaker? It's kind of one of those dynamics where, again, it's probably testing as well, but I'm just wondering your thoughts.
Yeah, I really have seen a little bit of everything work out. The really good news, though, is when it comes to ad copy and ad images, is they do make it really easy to test. So if you're like, I don't know, like I could talk about it from this angle or that angle, or I have short copy, I have long copy, I have like 3 different photos. You can test those all out without actually it costing you any more money than it would to just test one thing. So the budgeting happens at the ad set level, which is where you set your dates, your audience, and the budget. So what you'll do is you'll come up with different audiences that you want to test. You divide that out into different ad sets that each have their own budget. And then for any given audience that you're running ads to, you can test a couple of different things. I don't really recommend that you have more than 4 ads in an ad set. But what they do is let's say you had 4 ads, they will evenly split up the budget, start pushing the ads out. Part of the audience will see one ad, part will see the other, 25%, basically of the audience sees each ad. And then they see what's working the best, and then they focus on what's working the best. So the reason I say don't test more than 4 ads at a time is that if you have like a dozen ads in there, you'll notice that Facebook only really spent money on a couple of them. And then it became pointless. Like it wasn't even really a test because they didn't even show them to anybody. So usually about 4 is the max that I'll test at a time. If you have to do rounds of testing, right? But they push them out, and usually you find that there's a winner. There's one ad that they focus on the most because pretty early on, pretty fast, they'll make the decision on which one's getting clicks, which one are people engaging on, which one is driving traffic, that sort of a thing. And then they kind of help you make the decision of, well, what is working. And the interesting thing is what works for one audience might not work for another audience.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. Like we may have in our head, like, oh, this is what's going to work. Well, it may work for one set of people, but not another set. So you always test it on all of your audiences, see what works for that particular audience, and then you can narrow it down. And it didn't cost you any more money because let's say you were spending $20 a day. Well, those 4 ads basically fought for that budget and they shared that budget while they were testing it for you. And then you can turn off what's not working.
Yeah. I think that's some great advice there, and I think it's quite cheap to do that. Because, for example, I was talking to a client last night, and they have a dog walking service in the States, and they have it in 2 cities, and they're looking to go into a 3rd one. And we were just discussing, that in one city, apparently, like it's kind of popular to get their dogs walked. In another city, I think her words were saying they're quite pretentious. But another city, then they like walking the dogs themselves. So there's kind of cultural differences nearly like in the States, in 2 cities that are relatively near each other. And this lady is thinking of going into a 3rd market. We're just discussing different things, and obviously you can do ads in advance, and this is kind of what we're saying. But another thing, that you could do as well, but the thing is it's incredibly expensive, is what they call ethnography, and that's really where you just go and maybe stay there for a week or so, or where you're actually kind of going in depth. But of course, that's the time, the effort, the money. Whereas if you use Facebook ads and split testing, you actually, from what you're saying, is you're actually getting a very good sense of the marketplace and what's working for your business.
Yeah, so she's like, okay, in this city, this is what appeals to this market. In this other city, it's something different. Write copy with both focuses. She could test it out, put out a budget to that market and see, like, well, what are they more concerned about? Do more people click on the ad about this or about this?
Yeah.
And then she would know.
Yeah.
And then it might take some refining. So maybe like, okay, well, they're not so concerned about this topic. It's more of this angle that's making the difference. But then she may have to do a couple of different variations of that copy to see, like, okay, can I dial it in? Can I make it even more compelling? But she would have a sense of what is important to this market.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wondering as well, because it just strikes me. So if somebody was even starting up in business, where either they're going into a new business itself, or they're trying a new product or a new idea or a new service, and would you recommend that that people try the same thing, where even to gain a perspective on what people are looking for, because sometimes as business owners we get so excited about things and we're like, yes, everybody would love this, it's amazing and my mother likes it and all the rest of it, but really honestly, people, you test the market, oftentimes you really can't tell, or you've got to make adjustments, whatever the case is. So do you feel like this might be a good strategy for those type of people as well?
Yeah, I think when you're dialing in your offer, you're probably going to be better off talking to people individually and really getting into conversations and pulling things out. But if you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm pretty sure it's these couple of things, you could test it out and maybe create like opt-in offers.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe write a couple of blog posts or write a couple of free guides or something like that.
Yeah.
And then put it out there and see what gets the most clicks, the most comments, the most interaction. So sending traffic to a blog post, for example, would probably be one of the cheaper ways to do it if it was literally just to try to test something out. And see like how many people click and go over and check out the blog post and which one is getting comments and that sort of a thing. That would be a way to test out. If you've really kind of got it narrowed down, but you're just trying to see like which one gets the most interest, you could run, each one for a week and see what happens.
Sure, that's some great advice. Okay, well, that's a lot of advice you've given. I'm just wondering, we'll say, just to kind of wrap up, is there anything that you feel we've missed out on, any kind of aspects of Facebook ads that people should be aware of, as they're going about their Facebook advertising?
I think the most important thing is just that we didn't touch on would be really getting dialed in on your targeting. Mm-hmm. I see so many people put together targeting that is so broad, and they're scared to either get specific on the type of people that they want to help, where they're like, oh, I can help everybody. It's all women, in this 30-year age range or something like that, and they're scared to dial it in. Or they're marketing something really specific, and instead of staying like on topic in the pages that they're targeting, they're like, it's business stuff. I'm going to target Tony Robbins. Well, Tony Robbins talks about a lot of things, and, or it's Oprah. Well, my mom likes Oprah, but she's not, she may not be your ideal client if you're going after, you're like, well, she also helps with mindset stuff. So I think entrepreneurs like her, you have to be really specific and make sure that you're getting in front of an audience that it's like, yes, the great majority of what they talk about or what they're focused on, or the type of people that they're attracting, like 90% of that audience or 90% of that topic focus is what my ideal clients are after and in my niche. Because I just see this really kind of random broad targeting. So there's so many things. There's literally thousands of ways to target different audiences on Facebook. And I don't care like what your niche is. I can pretty much guarantee that if you look hard enough, that there is a way to target them. Because sometimes people say, well, it's a really corporate kind of businessy sort of thing. I don't know that my people are on Facebook. There are literally billions of people on Facebook. Obviously, some people are more active than others, but Facebook has a lot of ways to get in front of people. So yeah, like if they're, in an industry where maybe they're not reading about their topic on Facebook, you could still maybe get them by job title. You could get them like, let's say they're a lawyer, there's associations that they're a part of, that sort of a thing. Like think about what kind of training, what kind of education somebody would have had to be in a certain field. What kind of books are they reading? Also, it sounds kind of creepy, and maybe it is, but it's really handy as an advertiser. So many websites today have pixels. They have tracking. We have tracking on our websites. So sometimes people aren't checking out something on Facebook, but they're browsing the web and learning about certain things. And if that site has a pixel, Facebook knows kind of where we're hanging out online. So yeah, like let's say you specialize in helping people with troubled marriages. Well, they may not like a page about, troubled marriages or something, but they may be reading articles and doing things on the web where, because Facebook has these pixels all over the place, Facebook knows what we're interested in, even if it's not on Facebook. So there's a lot of really creative ways to get in front of your target market. So spend some time. I think the top two things are really getting dialed in on that targeting and not trying to get everybody, but getting specific and finding where those people are hanging out. And then number two, like I said, writing really compelling copy that isn't like what everybody else is saying and is really focused on how specifically are you going to help me? What kind of outcomes are you going to help me achieve? Kind of like what's in it for me, and the more specific, the better, so I can really get a clear picture, and that you're going to help me with something that I'm going to walk away with some specific knowledge, and you're going to have much better results than having something out there that on the surface is good. Maybe your content is fantastic, but if you don't convey that, nobody's going to stop. They're not going to click. They're not going to actually take the time to consume whatever it is that you produced. If it's just kind of general and I don't feel really motivated that I have to read this, I have to learn this right now. So you're gonna get much better results if you really take the time to talk to people, find out what it is that they want, and not just what we think. Because like you said, sometimes we think we know what people want, but if we're not in conversation with people, we can actually hit them, kind of miss the mark as to what are they compelled to learn more about that's a real urgent need for them.
Yeah, for sure. And I would definitely reiterate that. I mean, I worked in market research, and there was there's been times where, I was asked to research something, and to my mind, sometimes you'd be like, we're all human. That's so obvious. Of course they need whatever, or of course, and, your researcher head says, no, go check it out. And I remember one instance in particular, there was a UK company coming into Ireland, and they wanted to put videos into creches, into daycare. And I said, that's a no-brainer, because this is where parents dial in and they can see how their child is. And I was researching the daycare centres, so not the parents, and they didn't want it, and I didn't expect that. But without the market research, you would not have known that. And I mean, I could definitely hands up say, if I had not tested that market, I'd have said, yeah, they totally want that. And that's my assumption. And I see a lot of business owners kind of doing that. So definitely I think it's kind of testing, isn't it? And verifying, because sometimes we have an inkling, but it's tweaking it, isn't it?
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about Facebook ads is you can test so many different things. You can test the audience, the copy, the images. You can test your ideas as to what it is that people want. Like, what is that? Like, getting the hook right, like the thing that's really going to bring people in, it can make a world of difference from something that's just kind of like okay, but is not compelling, to something that can work really super well. But you can test it, and you can test out things that aren't going to be super time consuming. Like the best guides and things for people to sign up for are very short. You don't want some massive thing because nobody's going to consume it. You want either, like a less than an hour or less webinar, or you want some sort of like 2-page report, or not a report, that sounds boring, but like some sort of checklist or guide or something that's like actionable. I'm going to have an aha, and it's going to be really helpful. So, a 2-page thing is not going to take you that long, and it's actually going to be more helpful to people sometimes people come up with these like massive 30-day challenges or these really huge ebooks that I think nobody even consumes them. So
our attention spans are getting shorter even.
Yeah.
And just finally, because you've covered quite a lot, Julie, but just in terms of budget, I suppose it's one of the things, like how much should people spend? And again, I know every product is different. You could have a $2,000 product, you could have a $30 product, it could be completely different. But I suppose what I just trying to get across to the audience is, because some people are like, oh, I only want to spend $5 a day, I only want to spend, and that's it. And they kind of, where they go into a radio station or they go into like a magazine and they spend thousands and they don't think about it, and yet for some reason they come to Facebook ads and they're being really holding onto the purse strings. I'm not saying that's bad necessarily, but I'm just wondering, like you have to invest obviously in advertising. So I'm just wondering, have you any tips for people on that?
Yeah, there are definitely, I understand kind of the fear around putting the money into it when you don't know how it's going to work out. And I'm going to tell you, there's going to be some testing to get it right. So I'm fine with people being conservative when they start out. So if you're like, no, I just want to do $10 a day, you definitely can start out with $10 a day, but just know that it's going to take you some time to get enough traffic, because the thing with testing is, and you with a research background know this, like it's all about numbers, and you would never judge the success of something or whether or not something was right or wrong based on the opinion of a handful of people. Yes. It's just not statistically significant, right? So a problem I see a lot is somebody will spend $10 and they'll get in front of, a couple hundred people, they'll get a couple of clicks, and then they'll freak out if nothing has happened with their $10. And obviously, like, don't want to waste money. And I understand, especially when you're new in your business and you have a small budget, and every dollar really, I'm not minimizing the fact that the money is important to us, but when it comes to testing, you have to give it time, and you have to get in front of enough people. So I always say, like, yes, if you need to start with a lower budget, that's fine, but don't make a decision on whether or not your ad is working until you've given it bare minimum 3 days, but really more like 5 to 7 days to run. You've gotten at least, like, let's say you're trying to get signups or something, at least 100 clicks on it. And you have driven enough traffic to it to actually see if it's going to pan out. Because if you've spent $10, you've gotten, 20 clicks or something like that, it doesn't mean much. Plus, Facebook needs time to dial the ad in. So Facebook will tell you it takes 24 hours for them to really get that algorithm rolling, to learn something about who you're getting in front of, how they're interacting with the ad, what's going on. So sometimes people kill an ad within the first 24 hours. And honestly, that could have been their best ad ever, and they just don't know because it didn't look so hot in the first 24 hours. They got nervous because they had spent $10, $15, something like that, and they turned it off. And if they had given it more time, it might have actually gotten better and better and done really well. So you need both time and number of people. So try to give your ads 5 to 7 days. Try to give them at least 100 clicks. And so if you're spending a really small amount of money, you may or may not be able to hit that number of clicks in that time frame. So that's kind of where the budget comes in front with it. Because you can either be paying for impressions, just plain to get the ad seen, or you can be paying for clicks. So make sure you're getting enough clicks and you're giving it enough time. And if you can do those things, then, sometimes it's like, you spend a little bit of money, but it takes you longer to get the results. So you might as well have just spent a little bit more money up front to get the results to figure things out, right? So it depends on how you look at it. But it's okay to be conservative when you're testing things. Just make sure you give things enough time for it to actually mean something. And I know it's so hard. I'm guilty of this too. I'll preach this all day long, and then I'll run ads for myself or a client, and then like on the second day, it's like, oh, I just like it. Is it going to convert? And you get nervous, and you want to fiddle with it, and it's so hard to leave things alone sometimes. So I can sympathize because I have that problem too. But if you can just try to be patient and give things a little bit more time, you're going to find out a lot more from the testing. And it's I never think testing is a waste of money if you know how to read the reports and you learn something from it. It's like anything else in our business. There's no failures, there's just learning, right? So if you can learn from the test, even if you quote unquote wasted $100 on it, it wasn't a waste because you learned like what markets react to me, what kind of copy works well. Is there an interest in this topic? And if you can learn from it, it's money well spent. It's a great investment.
For sure. And I think it helps refine what you do sell. So the next time you run ads, not to do certain things because the last time it didn't work with her. So I think it does in the long term. The short term pain, the long term pain. Yeah. Trust me, I don't like to waste money either. But like if you learn from it, it's going to get better and better. And the next time you do something, you're going to get better results. Okay, great. That's super. Well, I know we're running out of time there, Julie. So look, thank you so much. You've given some great advice to people. Can you just let people know in terms of, if anybody wants to work with you, can they work with you on a one-to basis? Kind of what's the best way to approach working with you?
Yeah, so I have some digital programs. I'm actually about to roll out a 2-day workshop on Facebook ads and funnels. If somebody wants to get into the whole system of ads and funnels, that's going to be happening in December. It's the Facebook Ads to Money or ATM course that's coming out soon. I do one-to-one work with people where we actually hop on Zoom, which we're using to record this, and we can talk, we can screen share, we can get things done. It's sort of like done with you sort of work, where it's coaching, training, you get strategy. And then I do take on a handful of done for you clients. So if you are really ready to scale up and spend, a higher budget on your Facebook ads, that's where that comes in to play, to making more sense. If you're like, okay, like I've got a funnel worked out, I'm ready to scale this up, then I'd love to talk to them about handling their ads for them.
Okay, great. And you're sociallyaligned.com.
Yes.
And then it's julie@sociallyaligned.com. Isn't that right?
Yes, yeah. So feel free to email me, and obviously all my information's on my website.
Great. I'm just wondering, just, because I know a couple of people will come back to me and probably ask me, and they'll end up going forward to you. But if somebody, because I know a lot of people want to learn how to do Facebook ads, but they might need your guidance, kind of like you're describing, sharing the screen on Zoom or whatnot. Ballpark, can you give a sense of investment in that? Just roughly speaking, if people want to do that, if you're okay with sharing that.
My rates, or what they would spend on the ads? My rates,
just to work, just kind of so that you would help them maybe just to how to do it even.
Yeah. So I do have hourly for the one-on-one coaching, and the budget that they would be spending is up to them. I don't have any sort of limitations on that, but it's $250 for an hour, $697 for 3 hours of coaching, and it's all recorded. They have it to refer back to, and I have a private Facebook group, which people really love, because that way, if you have little questions, you can come in. It's just for clients, and you can ask me questions. So I have support in there too.
And what I'd say about that is, I think the working one-to-one like that, where you can see their screen and all the rest of it, it's very valuable, because you would be helping them specifically on their campaigns.
Yeah.
And kind of the progression tends to be a lot quicker than figuring it out themselves. So just
so it can be both training, so cut that learning curve from learning things and the how-to, but also general best practices for setup. And then, like you said, like sometimes if you're struggling with your copy, if you're struggling with your targeting, that sort of a thing, a digital class can help you with the technical know-how. But for your unique business, like getting that copy dialed in, having feedback on your page, figuring out exactly what the targeting should be. That's why I still offer one-on-one coaching, is because I think you can move so much faster and forward more, having that, individual help for your business.
Definitely. So I highly recommend people ring Julie, call Julie, because I think that sort of help is absolutely gold for sure.
Yeah. Definitely shorten their learning curve.
Yeah, for sure. And the mistakes.
Yeah.
And save you money, I think, in the long run as well.
Yeah.
Look, Julie, thank you so much. You've given really of your time. I really, really appreciate it, because I know you've been particularly busy week this week. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on the Martian Success Summit.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me on.
Not at all. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.